got my first Pinball Life order in. So, let's see what we got. My fancy schmancy invoice and Pinball Life keychain. Okay, that's something new. Don't typically get that. Alright. Here is all my leaf switches that I ordered. Pop bumper skirts. The cups and switches for my pop bumpers, base for the pop bumpers, body for the pop bumpers. Basically rebuilding my pop bumpers. Very little is original. So got all my yellows, all my greens, all my reds, drop targets. And my bulbs, sockets for my pop bumpers. Now this is something that I'm changing up, and I honestly don't know how it's going to look, so I'm going to mount these up just to get a good visual, but I'm going, instead of the original white drop target, not drop target, standard targets, I'm going with orange. I'm hoping, and I think it will, I'm thinking this orange is going to go really good with the playfield art. We'll see how that looks. Oh, all my brand new shiny light bulb sockets compared to my rusted up crap ones. My flasher ones, all my T-nuts that I'm missing, and my slingshot switches. So this is my coil for a location machine. And that is it. I think that is everything. Check my invoice just to make sure. Where's my metal yokes at? Okay, yeah, they're in there. Okay, good. All right. And that's almost about 300 bucks worth of stuff right there. Here we have a brand new stand-up target. These slide in through this direction. And as you can see, I've got nice little holes that give me an idea of where they are supposed to be attached. You'll notice I've got one for my green one for my yellow one, and this is what I'm talking about, guys, when it comes to these new playfields. Don't think that everything's going to be mapped out for you, ready to go. Because I've got them all on this one. I've got them all on this one. But I'm slacking on these right here. And the same ordeal goes up with these targets. I've got one for this one. And I've got two for this one. I'm missing a third one for that one. That just goes to show you that, you know, don't be expecting everything to be perfect and in place for you to just plug and play. This is going to require a little bit of finagling and finesse and adapting. So keep that in mind. I started mounting my leaf switches for my slingshots now, according to this, and the other two playfields that I've got. So I know that the playfield isn't wrong. And this is how they mount in. They go in like that, holes match up. Probably needs to be a little bit further forward, but right about there, that's where the holes are at, is right about there. Anyways, this is wrong. At first I thought I'd ordered wrong, but no, this is how these damn things come when you receive them. It needs to have the longer leaf switch on the other side of this. Now, I'm not sure if this is how they're supposed to come, or they're just making these wrong, or this playfield is just drastically different, or what. But I cannot put these on the playfield like this. So let's say I put these on here like this, because I've already done some testing with this. Let me walk around the other side. See, I've just put some of this old stuff on here just to confirm my theory. But if I was to have this on there like that, then you would see that the long lead switch is supposed to be in front, because the short switch can't even touch the rubber. I'm calling in reinforcements. It wouldn't be such a bad ordeal, but it's riveted. And I here do not have what's necessary to fix that. So, going to my buddy Jason's, and we're going to see if we can get these things going in the right direction.
These are the old leaf switches for my slingshots. Now, this is to point out the reason why I decided to go all new, and two, it also points out that these new switches I purchased are in fact different.
There we go.
Take that guy off. Put it on a terry cloth or any type of microfiber. Make sure you put a piece of plastic over it, because if you don't, you're going to catch the microfiber lint edges underneath the edges of that rivet, and you'll have lint ball all the way around. So basically we're going to do that right there. So I'm going to grab the other rivet. I'm going to get them both in there for alignment.
All right.
Turn it on me.
Got to bend those switches back.
I'm not all the way tight yet. So some of these switches, you'll have a small washer, and some of them don't. So be aware of if you got a small washer in there, make sure you put the washer back for the correct crush. This is the die. If you want to chuck this up in a vise, this is a die that works for the head of the rivet. So that would be for an 1/8 inch rivet, and that would fit on the head of the rivet if you wanted to put that in a vise. And this guy's contoured in order to flare out the tube of the rivet out. So both of these are offered by Hansen rivet. They're very good. I've used them on that TAF. Mainly this one I didn't use the die. I just used it on the flat bar. I've got it on a big flat bar here. Kind of like the head of a big vise. Kind of protect the metal with that, and then I'm going to add a piece of plastic over it, because I don't want to scar up the nickel plating of the new rivet. So I'm going to put it on that plastic like that, and then you'll smash your rivet down with your driver. So pretty well that's that. And if you want to note down, I know this was for the die, but if anybody wants that 1/8 inch rivet crusher, the part number is HT-174, and that'll get it from Hansen. Highly recommend buying that. I think you can find them on the web for about 25 bucks, but that right there is it's golden for doing rivets. Otherwise, you're not going to get your perfectly crushed all the way around correctly. So make sure you buy the right tool to do the right job on that. No substitutions when it comes to rivets.
Yay!
Cents a piece from
These right here?
Yeah. So they're using 3mm metric flats. Gotta be good to go, man.
Hell to the yeah.
Play some pinball.
Alright, now that the switches are facing the appropriate direction, we have a gap that's in between all the switches. So that should work accordingly. And then I'll move these, because these aren't even clean or new, to this slingshot and do it again. Something I want to point out is the drastic difference between what the playfield recommended me to have and what I actually had to do. This was way off when it comes to the holes lining up to where they needed to be in order for my switch gap and slingshot rubber to be in the ideal position. Now that that has been corrected, I can move on to the next sling. And so for this next switch, this hole right here is where it was already dimpled. This little black dot here is where that bottom one actually needs to be. I mean, we're talking like, that's a pretty good distance right there, almost 1/4 of an inch. And 1/4 of an inch is drastic when it comes to switch gaps. Keep that in mind. So this is the ideal scenario for your slingshots, what we want here, people. So whenever I push on these, look at that. Doesn't really require too much of an effort for those switches to make contact, which is going to force that mech to launch the ball out. That's what we want. Moving on to the pop bumper switches, I'm very glad that these have nuts and bolts, so I'm able to swap this metal flange around to the other direction because I'm going to need to in order to get these to be where they need to be. Like for instance, this technically could go to this one, but that's not where that one's actually going to go because it needs to flop the flange around and activate this one over here, but I can't with it being on this side. But once I put it on the correct side, then it will. So now to get these in the appropriate orientation and get these going. Pop bumper switches are attached. I've got probably, maybe, if I can get a good angle on here, a business card gap in between those contacts. And that's something to monitor accordingly as you're putting everything back on the playfield, as well as putting everything assembly-wise back on here, is to make sure that gap is close. If you want your pop bumpers to be ultra-sensitive, then get that gap as close as you can, and then you will have some super fast reactive pop bumpers. So moving on to getting my pop bumpers assembled. This will not slide into the hole because the clear coat is so damn thick. So I've got to sand around here using my handy dandy Dremel. And I'll just basically root around there just to kind of get the outer portion of it to where that piece will snug slide fit in there. Man, gonna need a lot more sanding. Got it in there. So it required a little bit more than a sanding bit. I had to use my wood eater because the sanding bit would have taken way too long, and this did the job pretty quick. And that is in there really snug, but I'm able to maneuver it around if need to be. But it's not just sitting in there and free spinning. It's in there nice and snug. That is where I want it. 2 more to go. Damn dust! And here's the difference between pop bumpers, the metal assembly, polish, with no polish. Makes a big difference, guys.